they still fit in your life.
Yes. Amen.
But you put God first. Minus the things you really didn't need anyway. So,
Amen.
but that's the point, though. Really, the things, and being a gym owner and a fitness trainer, people I get asked all the time, well, how can I lose this? How can I gain that? Well, the workouts that I try to give people are functional workouts. So you can function better in your everyday life. You know, those days of trying to lift the world, they're over, ain't they, Dave? We try to think we can still lift the world, and for what? I don't know. But the point was, the workouts that I try to have these people do are workouts that it gains what they want and they lose what they really don't want. And those little pieces of rice that are on the ground or on the floor, those are really things that you don't really need in your life anyway. So those are the things, well, how can I get rid of this stomach? You know, how can I get this flab on the bottom of your arms? You know, there's some of the things, you know, that I said, well, you've got to put God first.
Amen.
And those things will get taken away. And you understand, well, how can you put God first? Because He's got to be first.
Amen.
Or all the other stuff is not going to matter. So the reason for wrestling with God is not to have God see things our way, but to help us see things His way.
Amen.
Yes. Yes.
Man. So you see the process that we've gone through. Why is it taking so long? So I'm giving you things, steps along the way. What's it going to take? You do not have to go through these steps, this process that's taken for so long. You know, I hate to say it, it's kind of a roller coaster, and that's some of our lives, even if we're not in prison. You know, we'll do good for a while, then we'll kind of fall off the wagon. We'll do good for a while, then we'll fall off the wagon. Well, it's because we're still wrestling with God, because we want Him to see things our way. The direction that we want to go is still our way. So here's Jacob. And this is where I hope you'll be today, if this is where you're at in your life, brokenness. You see the verse part of chapter 33, same book, and say, and Jacob lifted up his eyes. And see, if you remember by this time, if you know the story, that Jacob wrestled with a man to the breaking of the day, an angel of God. And he wouldn't let go of this man that he wrestled with. So what did he do? He touched the hollow of his hip. So now Jacob is walking around limping, hobbling probably. You can try to picture that in your mind. He's not Jacob no more. In his humbled state. And we've all been there in a humbled state where God blessed Jacob. And you know, I didn't know it through the process that in my humble state I was getting blessed even then.
Amen. Yes.
You know, the supporting cast, I can't give it to nobody but God.
Yes.
To be able to, and this is not putting anything on, you know, what I feel I have done, but to be able to walk out of prison into a house, not an apartment, but a house and a truck and a job that pays for both of those things.
Amen.
That's God.
Yes. Hallelujah.
But you know what? I would have gotten rid of all that because the day, and there was a picture that they have in their house, Mom and Dad, got my release papers and I'm walking out the gate and my family's there.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
That's God.
Amen.
Because it took God's strength for them to endure this whole time
Yes.
when I was my selfish state. It was all about me. And they had to pay the price.
Yes.
So I ask you, can you remember how you truly came to Christ? What it took to get there? You kind of heard a little bit about what it took for me. And what it cost others.
Yes.
Like me, I was broken. I was stripped of everything I knew and humbled. Truly humbled. And you would think, here's Jacob, verses 33, and he passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times till he came near to his brother. This is Jacob. True humility. It took Jacob years and years to get back to this point. You know the story. Spent years and years with Laban, his father-in-law. But now he's back to see Esau. He put himself on the ground. You know, that's when we come to God. You know, we don't do it a lot in some churches where we actually will get on our knees and just lift up holy hands. But you know what? When you are broken and you're needing only Him in your life and no one else, that's what you'll do.
Yes,
You'll prostrate yourself before Him. Because sometimes that's what you got to do. You have to let go of yourself and just let God.
Amen. Yes.
Finally, here's Jacob. He finally put aside everything that he thought he could earn, buy, persuade. Boy, I know about that. I thought I could manipulate anybody or anything to get what I wanted.
Amen.
Obviously, it caught up to me. And it finally to the point of letting go. So if you're to that point today of wanting to let go, I pray that you don't have to go through all these steps, this process to get there. You can choose today, I hope. And maybe, you know, you've been saved for years and years, but you know there's still some things that you want to change. Well, you know what? You don't have to go through those struggles. You don't have to go through those no faith. You can make a decision, a conscious decision. You know what? This is what I'm going to do. Because you have to remember whose you are. Whose you are. And who you are in Christ. I don't know how many times, I don't know why we don't remember those simple things. This is a big family. And we got an awesome family. And I'm talking about the body here. I'm not talking about blood. I'm talking about God's blood.
Amen.
That's on everyone that knows His Son.
Yes.
See verses 4 of chapter 33. It says, and Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. And you know, I didn't realize until putting this thing together, I was like, man, that sounds familiar. The prodigal son story at the very end where he's like, man, you know what? I can go back and be with the hired hands. They're eating better than I am. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'll just go back and I'll ask, you know, God forgiveness. I'll ask my Father forgiveness, and I'll just be a hired servant. And you know his dad, when he seen him every day, looking out there,
Yes.
seeing him, and he ran.
Yes.
And he had compassion. Fell on his neck and kissed him. Sounds almost similar to Jacob and Esau. I never seen that comparison until going through this thing. I said, man, when I seen that verse 34, I was like, man, that is the same as the prodigal son's dad. But that's how our Heavenly Father is.
Amen.
He's always looking for His children to come back home.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes this will happen. You'll doubt what you know and feel and think. You can't come to church thinking you're going to get a good feeling. Well, I'm excited. That was some great worship. The praise team, boy, they pumped me up. You go home, you get some lunch, and guess what? This starts to creep in. This will creep in. But nothing you have done could keep you from God's love.
That's right.
I mean, the simple verse, God is love. I mean, that says it all. And He's waiting for you. But God. We gotta hold on. I think it just skipped some. But anyway, I want to go back real quick. I don't know where it disappeared to, but we'll get to a point in our lives where we think we're there. Well, I think about 15 years ago, with that illustration right there, I still didn't get it. He wasn't getting his time. So what did he do? He put me on my back. I ruptured a disc in my back. I mean, I'm walking around, and that was part supposed to be up there with Jacob, hobbling. That was me. Until I got that surgery, that was me. I was in a humble state where he's like, you know what? If you're not going to give me my time, I'm going to get it one way or another.
Yes. Amen.
And this was still probably about 4 or 5 years after I done got locked up. I still did not learn. I was going to church, I was reading, but you know what? I still wasn't getting it. He said, you know what? I see it's going to take something else. I hate to say it, some of us are stinking hard-headed.
Yeah.
And I always say I had to use that sledgehammer effect. One of them big old things. And So he put me on my back. He's like, you know what? I'm going to get my time. And I was so hard-headed, I left in early morning, went and had the surgery that night. The following morning, I got to walk down this long hallway until they let me go. I walked the hallway until they let me go home. Well, I didn't go home, but, you know, back to where I was from. So the following morning, you know, can't go back to work yet where I was working at because, you know, I had to be cleared from the doctor. You know what I did? By them cutting my back open, I couldn't lift anything. So my hard-headed rascal still walked out to that crazy weight pile to try to lift some crazy weight. What in the world is wrong with me? So I couldn't lift nothing. So you know what? I lean up on this incline machine, grab the smallest dumbbells I can try to do, move my fingers to get up there just to do something. I say, what in the world is wrong with me? That's when it hit me. So I put them down, got up, and I was like, I got it. I got it. Don't get to that point where you have to go to the farthest where you feel like you're in a well. And it's so dark down there, there's nothing but you can do is look up. And you see that little bit of light. Because I'm going to be honest with you, 18 years ago, when they give me the time, family done left. I'm sure they were probably heading back to Pennsylvania. Go back to my jail cell. When I had that realization, that's a long time. They had a drop ceiling. Now, I haven't told many people this. They had a drop ceiling in there, and a corner of it was kind of broken off. And it was sharp. I'm thinking, you know what, I could just slice something open, crawl in bed that night. They'd never know. Because we had a lip on the beds, and there the